Hello. Today we're going to tell you about Butyrka Prison, Detention Center Number 2 in Moscow, also known as Butyrskaya Prison or Butyrka Transit Prison. It's the largest prison in the Russian capital and one of the oldest and most well-known prisons in Russia. It's located in the Tverskoy district on Novoslobodskaya Street, Building 45, near the Butyrskaya Gate, from which the institution got its name. The prison building is a cultural heritage site of federal significance. History of Butyrka Prison. During the reign of Catherine the Great, barracks were built in the Butyrsky farmstead, where a Russian hussar regiment was once stationed. Nearby stood a wooden prison. Yemelyan Pugachev was held in chains in the basement of towers that still survive on the grounds of the modern prison, until his execution in January 1775. In 1774, Catherine II wrote a letter to Moscow Governor-General Zakhar Chernyshov, agreeing to the construction of the Butyrsky outpost, a stone district jail to replace the existing wooden one. The master plan for the future prison was attached to the letter. The prison building project was designed by the outstanding Moscow architect Matvey Kazakov. The Butyrsky jail had 4 towers: Pugachev Tower, formerly the Southern Tower, the Northern Tower, and 2 guard towers. In 1782, the Intercession Church was built in the center of the Butyrsky district jail, also designed by Kazakov. From 1868, the institution served as the central transit prison, through which about 30,000 people passed annually. The current prison building was constructed in 1879. The prison had carpentry, bookbinding, shoemaking, and tailoring workshops, as well as workshops for producing Viennese chairs and wood carving. The Sergeyev Elizavetin shelter was organized for the wives and children of those who voluntarily followed exiles to Siberia. In 1873, a group of counterfeiters was discovered in the prison. Leo Tolstoy, while working on his novel Resurrection, visited the head of Butyrka Prison, Vinogradov, in January 1899 and asked him about the details of the institution's operation. In April 1899, Tolstoy came to Butyrka Prison to trace the route of convicts being sent to Siberia via Nikolaevsky railway station. He later depicted this route in his novel. During the December armed uprising of 1905, militia members, mainly workers from the Myusky tram depot and employees of the Savalovsky and Brest railways, attempted to capture the prison, but were repelled by the escort command. Fighting continued until December 14th. The area was occupied by dragoon units. In 1907, an investigative department was created at the prison. In 1908, a temporary central hard labor department was established at Butyrka Prison. At various times, the prison held Ivan Kalyaev, Nikolai Schmidt, sailors from the mutinous battleship Potemkin, and in 1908, Vladimir Mayakovsky. The illusionist Harry Houdini managed to escape in 28 minutes from a special transport box used to transport prisoners from Moscow to Siberia. The maestro was shackled in chains and handcuffs, locked in a container with a nailed-down lid, but overcame all obstacles. In 1911 and 1917, Nestor Makhno was held in Butyrka. Like all political prisoners, he was released during the February Revolution on March 1, 1917. Felix Dzerzhinsky, sentenced a year earlier to 6 years of hard labor, was released from Butyrka after the October Revolution of 1917. After the revolution, Butyrka Prison was used as a detention center and transit prison. In 1921, former Army Commander Mironov was held and killed in Butyrka. The prison church was closed in the 1920s. During the Great Terror of 1937 to 1938, up to 170 people were held in each cell. In total, about 20,000 people were in the prison at that time. Thousands of prisoners were executed without trial, or investigation. During World War II, part of the prison was converted into workshops where prisoners worked for the needs of the army. In 1973, during the filming of the television series 17 Moments of Spring, some scenes were shot in the building's premises. Current state. Currently, the prison serves as Moscow's largest detention center. It's a complex of approximately 23-story buildings. In the 1980s, a multi-story residential building was transferred to the prison's use. The prison has 434 cells, 101 common cells measuring approximately 6 by 12 meters, about 20 by 39 feet, totaling roughly 775 square feet, where initially 20 to 25 prisoners were expected to be housed. Another 301 cells have smaller areas, designed for no more than 4 prisoners.
32 punishment cells are designated for disciplinary sanctions. Officially, Butyrka Prison should hold no more than 3,500 prisoners. Currently, it houses fewer than 2,700 people. Before reconstruction, large cells of 75 square meters, about 807 square feet, could accommodate up to 60 people sleeping in 3 or 4 shifts. In 1996, more than 120 prisoners lived in such cells. Since 1992, the Orthodox Church has been operating again. In May 1994, several former prisoners, led by Siberian Sergei Lipchansky, decided to visit their comrades in Butyrka Prison, having arranged this with the institution's staff. However, law enforcement learned of this, and 34 people were detained, including detention center employees and guests. 2 prison employees were sentenced to a year in prison, and many were dismissed. Since 1996, Butyrka Prison, with the exception of the psychiatric ward, no longer accepts women. Among notable recent prisoners was Vladimir Gusinsky, who spent 3 days in the prison in June 2000. On January 28, 2008, Deputy Director of the Federal Penitentiary Service of the Russian Federation, Vladimir Semenyuk, told journalists that there were those willing to buy this building, but the condition was the construction of a new detention center. However, when investors began calculating the cost of construction, they abandoned the deal. A museum has been operating at the prison since 1971. Visits are only possible as part of a tour group by prior request from a legal entity. Escapes from Butyrka Prison. From 1905 to 1913, several escapes occurred. On May 16, 1913, convicts planned a mass escape, which failed. In the post-Soviet period, escapes were not widely publicized. In 1992, 2 people made the first escape in the prison's recent history. In July 1996, the first woman's escape from Butyrka Prison occurred. 40-year-old Natalia, who was detained 3 days later at the Dorogomilovsky market in Moscow. In 1996, 2 more successful escapes occurred. 2 prisoners in the exercise yard bent the bars and descended from the roof to the street using a rope. They were detained fairly quickly. On March 24, 2000, a robber from Georgia escaped and was caught 5 days later. On September 1, 2001, 3 particularly dangerous criminals with long sentences escaped from death row. They spent several days breaking through the poorly preserved cement floor with spoons, got into the sewage system, and escaped to the street. 2 were detained in the Moscow region 3 weeks later, the third only in April 2003. In October 2001, Ivan Vinogradov escaped through the bars in the visitation room. He was caught a month later. On March 2, 2009, a 26-year-old man wanted on an international warrant for theft in Belarus escaped from the psychiatric ward.
He was detained in December 2009. On April 24, 2009, 24-year-old Vasily Loktionov, a suspect in crimes against children with a prior record, escaped and was caught the same day on Zubovsky Boulevard in Moscow. He got out of the cell by pushing out the window bars, then climbed onto the detention center's roof, jumped down, and left the facility's grounds. The history of Butyrka Prison reflects difficult chapters of Russian history. This institution reminds us of the importance of a fair legal system and respect for human dignity. If you found this topic interesting, share your thoughts in the comments. Subscribe to the channel and leave a like.